Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're reading from Adi Lila, chapter 10, verse 113 onwards. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tamam vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. रामदास कविचंद्र श्री गोपाल दास भागवत आचार्य ठाकुर Sarangadas. The 73rd branch of the original tree was Ramdas, the 74th was Kavichandra, the 75th was Sri Gopal Das, the 76th was Bhagavad Acharya, and the 77th was Thakur Sarangdas. Purport Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya in the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika 203, it is said, Bhagavad Acharya compiled a book entitled Krishna Prema Tarangini, and he was the most beloved devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Varahanagar, now a suburb of Calcutta, he stayed in the house of a most fortunate Brahman who was a very learned scholar in Bhagavad literature. As soon as his Brahman saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he began to read Srimad Bhagavatam. When Mahaprabhu heard his explanation, which expounded Bhakti Yoga, he immediately became unconscious in ecstasy. Lord Chaitanya later said, I have never heard such a nice explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam. I therefore designate you Bhagavad Acharya. Your only duty is to recite Srimad Bhagavatam. That is my injunction. His real name was Raghunath. His monastery, which is situated in Varahanagar, about 3.5 miles north of Calcutta on the bank of Ganges, still exists, and it is managed by the initiated disciples of the late Sri Ramadas Babaji. Presently, however, it is not as well managed as in the presence of Babaji Maharaj. Another name of Thakur Sarangdas was Sharang Thakur. Sometimes he was also called Sharang Pani or Sharangadhra. He was a resident of Navadvip in the neighborhood known as Modadrum Dvip, and he used to worship the Supreme Lord in a secluded place on the bank of the Ganges. He was not accepting disciples, but he was repeatedly being inspired from within by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to do so. Thus one morning he decided, whomever I see I shall make my disciple. When he went to the bank of the Ganges to take his bath, by chance he saw a dead body floating in the water, and he touched it with his feet. This immediately brought the body to life, and Thakur Sarangdas accepted him as his disciple. This disciple later became famous as Thakur Murari, and his name is always associated with that of Sri Sarang. His disciplic succession still inhabits the village of Shar. There is a temple of Mamagachi that is said to have been started by Sarang Thakur. Not long ago, a new temple building was erected in front of the Bakula tree there, and it is now being managed by the members of the Gaudiya Math. It is said that the management of the temple is now far better than before. In the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika 172, it is stated that Sarang Thakur was formerly a gopi named Nandimukhi. Some devotees say that he was formerly Prahalad Maharaj, but Sri Kavi Karnapura says that his father Shivananda Sen does not accept his proposition. Verse 114, Jagannath Tirth Vipra Sri Janakinath Gopal Acharya R. Vipra Vaninath. The 78th branch of the original tree was Jagannath Tirth, the 79th was the Brahman Sri Janakinath, the 80th was Gopalacharya, and the 81st was the Brahman Vaninath. Purport Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, Jagannath Tirth was one of the 9 principal sannyasis who were Lord Chaitanya's associates. Vaninath Vipra was a resident of Charnapahati, a village in the district of Burdwan near the town of Navadvip, the police station of Purvasthali, and the post office of Samudragarh. The temple there was very much neglected, but it was renovated in the Bengali year 1328, which is AD 1921, by Sri Paramananda Brahmachari, one of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples, who recognized the Seva Puja, that is the worship in the temple, and placed the temple under the management of the Sri Chaitanya Mutt of Sri Mayapur. In the temple as it now exists, the deity of Sri Gaura Gadadhar is worshipped strictly according to the principles of the revealed scriptures. Chanapahati is 2 miles away from both Samudragarh and the Navadvip station of the Eastern Railway. Verse 115. Govind Madhav Vasudev teen bhai yan sabar kirtane nache Chaitanya Nitai. The 3 brothers Govinda, Madhav and Vasudev were the 82nd, 83rd and 84th branch of the tree Lord Chaitanya Nityananda used to dance in their kirtan performances. Purport: the 3 brothers Govinda, Madhav and Vasudev Ghosh all belonged to the Kayasth family. Govind established the Gopinath temple in Agradvipa where he resided. Madhav Ghosh was expert in performing kirtan. No one within this world could compete with him. He was known as the singer of Vrindavan and was very dear to Sri Nityananda Prabhu. It is said that when the 3 brothers performed Sankirtan, immediately Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda would dance in ecstasy. According to the Gaura Ganutesha Deepika 188, the 3 brothers were formerly Kalavati, Rasolas and Gunatunga, who recited the songs composed by Sri Vishakha Gopi. The 3 brothers were among one of the 7 parties that performed Kirtan when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu attended the Rath Yatra festival at Jagannath Puri. Vakreshwar Pandit was the chief dancer in their party. This is vividly described in the Madhya Lila, chapter 13, verses 42 and 43. Verse 116. Ramadas Abhiram Sakhya Prem Rashi Sola Sangera Kastha Tuli Ye Karila Vanshi. Ramdas Abhiram was fully absorbed in the mellow of friendship. He made a flute of a bamboo stick with 16 knots. Purport: Abhiram was an inhabitant of Khanakula, Krishna Nagara. Verse 117. Prabhura Ajnaye Nityananda Gaure Jalila Tanra Sange Teen Jan Prabhu Ajna Aila. By the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 3 devotees accompanied Lord Nityananda Prabhu when he returned to Bengal to preach. Verse 118. Ramadas Madhav Ar Vasudeva Ghosha Prabhu Sange Rahe Govinda Paiya Santosha. These 3 were Ramadas, Madhav Ghosh and Vasudev Ghosh. Govinda Ghosh, however, remained with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri and thus felt great satisfaction. Verse 119. Bhagavad Acharya Chiranjeeva Sri Raghunandana Madhavacharya Kamalakanta Sri Yadunandan. Bhagavad Acharya Chiranjeev, Sri Raghunandan, Madhavacharya Kamalakant and Sri Yadunandan were all among the branches of the Chaitanya tree. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, Sri Madhavacharya was the husband of Lord Nityananda's daughter Ganga Devi. He took initiation from Purushottam, a branch of Nityananda Prabhu. It is said that when Nityananda Prabhu's daughter married Madhavacharya, the Lord gave him the village named Panji Nagara as a dowry. Madhavacharya temple is situated near the Jirat railway station on the Eastern Railway. According to Gaura Ganadesha Deepika 169, Sri Madhavacharya was formerly the gopi named Madhavi. Kamalakant belonged to the branch of Sri Advaita Prabhu. His full name was Kamalkanta Vishwas. Verse 120. Mahakripa Patra Prabhura Jagai Madhai Patit Pavana Namera Sakshi Dui Bhai. Jagai and Madhai, the 89th and 90th branches of the tree, were the greatest recipients of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. These two brothers were the witnesses who proved that Lord Chaitanya was rightly named Patit Pavan, the deliverer of the fallen souls. Purport in the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika 115, it is said that the two brothers Jagai and Madhai were formerly the doorkeepers named Jai and Vijay, who later became Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Jagai and Madhai were born in respectable Brahmin families, but they adopted the professions of thieves and rogues and thus became implicated in all kinds of undesirable activities, especially women hunting, intoxication and gambling. Later, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu, they were initiated and they got the chance to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. As a result of chanting, both brothers became exalted devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The descendants of Madhai still exist and they are respectable Brahmins. The tombs of these two brothers, Jagai and Madhai, are in a place known as Goshata or Madhai Tala Gram, which is situated about 1 mile south of Katwa. It is said that Sri Gopi Charan Das Babaji established a temple of Nitai Gaura at this place about 250 years ago. Verse 121. Gaura Desha Bhaktera Kaila Sankshep Kathan Ananta Chaitanya Bhaktana Yaya Ganana. I have given a brief description of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya in Bengal. Actually, his devotees are innumerable. Verse 122. Lila Chale Se Ay Sab Bhakta Prabhu Sange Dui Sthane Prabhu Seva Kaila Nana Range. I especially mentioned all these devotees because they accompanied Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Bengal and Orissa and served him in many ways. Purport: most of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya lived in Bengal and Orissa. Thus, they are celebrated as Gaudiyas and Oriyas. At present, however, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his cult is being propagated all over the world, and it's most probable that in the future history of Lord Chaitanya's movement, Europeans, Americans, Canadians, Australians, South Americans, Asians, and people from all over the world will be celebrated as devotees of Lord Chaitanya. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness has already constructed a big temple at Mayapur, Navadvip, which is being visited by devotees from all parts of the world, as foretold by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and anticipated by Sri Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Verse 123. Keval Nilachale Prabhura Ye Bhakta Gana Sankshepe Kariya Kichu Se Sab Kathan. Let me briefly describe some of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. Verses 124 and 124 to 126, they're all together. Nila Chale Prabhu Sange Yat Bhakta Gana Savar Adhyaksha Prabhura Marma Dvijana Paramanand Puri Ar Swarup Damodar Gadadhar Jagdanand Shankar Vakreshwara. Damodar Pandit Thakur Haridas Raghunath Vaidya R. Raghunath Das. Nilachale in Jagannath Puri, Prabhu Sange in the company of Lord Chaitanya, Yata all Bhaktagan devotees, Sabar of all of them, Adhyaksha the chief, Prabhura of the Lord, Marma, heart and soul. Dui Jana, two persons. Paramanand Puri. Ara and Swarup Damodar, Gadadhar is Gadadhar. Jagadanand is Jagadanand. Shankar is Shankar. Vakreshwar is Vakreshwar. Damodar Pandit is Damodar Pandit. Thakur Haridas, Raghunath Vaidya. R and Raghunath Das is of course Raghunath Das. Translation: among the devotees who accompanied the Lord is Jagannath Puri. In Jagannath Puri, two of them, Paramananda Puri and Swarup Damodar, were the heart and soul of the Lord. Among the other devotees were Gadadhar, Jagadanand, Shankar, Vakreshwar, Damodar Pandit, Thakur Haridas, Raghunath Vaidya and Raghunath Das. Purport: the Chaitanya Bhagavat Antekhanda chapter 5 states that Raghunath Vaidya came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when the Lord was staying at Panihati. He was a great devotee and had all good qualities. Actually, according to the Chaitanya Bhagavat, he was formerly Revati, the wife of Balram. Anyone he glanced upon would immediately attain Krishna consciousness. He lived on the seashore at Jagannath Puri and compiled a book of the name Sthana Nirupan. Verse 127. Ityadika Purva Sangi Bada Bhakt Gana Nila Chale Rahi Kare Prabhura Sevana. Ityadika, all these and others. Purva Sangi, former associates, Bada, very. Bhaktagan, great devotees. Nilachale at Jagannath Puri. Rahi, remaining. Kare, do. Prabhura, of the Lord. Sevana, service. All these devotees were associates of the Lord from the very beginning, and when the Lord took up residence in Jagannath Puri, they remained there to serve him faithfully. Verse 128. Arayata Bhakta Gana Gaura Deshvasi Pratyabde Prabhure Dekhe Nilachale Asi. All the devotees who resided in Bengal used to visit Jagannath Puri every year to see the Lord. So we will continue our reading from here onwards next time. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.